Do you guys ever sit down and eat a whole jar of bread and butter pickles?
Absolutely not.
Definitely,
They're-
not.
They're delicious, guys. Let me tell you.
Yeah, that's going to be really harsh on you on the back end, dude. I'm glad I don't live anywhere near you. A lot of vinegar.
Yeah, that explains why he's so damn grumpy all the time. Just all that vinegar.
It's one of the many reasons, but yeah.
Just vinegar and salt.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can say for today for sure, I'm not that grumpy.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
that's
but who am I?
I don't know who you are, but we are the Grumpy Dungeon Masters. I'm the Grumpy Dungeon Master Jay. I'm joined by Dan, Kristian, and some other guy whose name I don't know. I think Christopher or something like that.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. Hey, guys.
Hi.
Hello there.
So, Kristian, you have 30 seconds to start this off before I jump in and take over the whole podcast.
Nope, I got some stuff to talk about. But first,
all right. Yeah, 30 seconds.
Follow us on all the social things. Look for us on YouTube and Spotify and some places that old people hang out, like a Book of Faces.
Yeah, it's facebook.com/Grumpy Dungeon Masters, youtube.com/Grumpy Dungeon Masters,
and
Twitch. TV/Grumpy Dungeon Masters. And we're playing through Lord of the Rings, which is a lot of fun right now.
Return to Moria.
Yeah.
That is fun. All right. That's enough for the social plug.
Yeah. Hit that bell icon on the podcast.
Seconds are up. Your 30 seconds are up, Kristian.
It's my turn.
Yep, no. I do not cede.
I do not use my time!
No, I got a couple of cool things in that I had ordered, so I wanted to talk just a little bit about them. One of them being, this is one of the things I backed during Zine Month.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
It's called the White Horse of Lowvale.
The White Horse of what?
Lowvale.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's what happens when you take your carriage and you just chop off some of the wheels. You got a Lowvale.
So this is a really cool kind of folk horror adventure. It's written to be system neutral, though it expects that you kind of plug in your something that's vaguely a D20 based, usually OSR type game. So Morkborg, old school essentials, Cairn,
Shadow Dark,
things along those lines. But the art in this is completely blew me away, which is what drew me to this. And I'm going to butcher her name, so I am so sorry. But it's from Tanya Herrero. And
sounds right.
You can find more of her things at breadworm.com. And makes a lot of cool art heavy adventures, but this one in particular is a kind of supposed to be a low magic kind of fairy tales folk horror kind of thing. It's about a water horse that haunts this town, shows up every night and drags someone down to the lake.
I'm looking at this thing. This is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, when you see it, the art, that's why I was kind of drawn to it. And it's so it's got a small hex crawl within it where you've got the town as kind of your central point of thing. There's a miller in the town who is looking for heroes to come solve this problem of this white horse that keeps showing up every night and dragging a new person down isn't going to rest until eventually it has depopulated the town and drag them all down to the bottom of the lake. So I don't want to spoil too much of the adventure, but there's a lot of cool angles you can take. There isn't one given solution to how to deal with it. There is the, obvious, you can try to find the way to kill the horse, and it's not just a straight up go find it and kill it. You have to find the right tools, find the right information. But there's also ways that you could potentially deal with it in other ways. You've got a couple of interesting NPCs in the town. You've got people out in the wilds, including kind of a fairy tale interpretation of the old Robin Goodfellow.
Mm-hmm.
And then the creepy folk horror woods aren't good with an old hag, so there's old Nana Taga out in the out in the wild, happy to make a bargain. But I love the art and feel of it. I love the fact that it was kind of written in this very like the whole thing is written in almost like a poetic way. So it's even just as something to read through as the DM. Like I enjoyed just reading through it, looking at the art and just reading through it, and something I will be excited to run. Coming up, hopefully, in the near future when I start running something, that might be one of the things I run my crew into in Shadowdark.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I'll have to try to get me a copy of this at some point. That looks awesome.
It kind of sounds like a prelude to like the Merrylude. Like you go out here and you stop this like man-eating horse, and then all of a sudden it's showing up as this undead skeletal horse singing into your front window. Like, give me. You gotta have a rap contest with it to get it to go away.
Yeah, it's spitting mad rhymes at you, and it steals your beer just because you stopped it from murdering all of a town.
I told you I'd be back. Now listen to this sick beat. Boot tip.
Yeah, but that was a really cool adventure. Something I am looking forward to. It's enough that I went through and was like, okay, I need to go find the rest of her stuff and probably start buying that, because that I was sold once I got through that. So I definitely want to get the rest of her books. She's got a few other ones out there.
Yeah. Make sure to invite her onto the podcast. We can chat.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that it? Is it my turn?
You know what? No.
Oh.
I got a couple other. Yeah. Got a couple other cool books in. I'm not going to take too long here. I'll let you. I know you got a million things to talk about for way too long.
No, there's 4 people here. I have to share my time.
Yeah, you do.
But I got 2 different things from a group called Feral Indie Studios, and I'm definitely going to want to get more of their things. But I got a system neutral mega dungeon called Ave Nox.
Okay.
And it is just a very neat deadly dungeon, but it's got a lot of interesting play. There's like a sun cult that has gone wrong. I'll just leave it at that. There's a kind of a town with that you can use as the base of your adventure. It's got hirelings that you can bring with you, rival adventuring groups, factions within the cult, friendly weird stuff you can do. The whole thing is it is a weird dungeon based off what used to be, I guess, the capital of, or the grand temple or capital of a long since past empire. But all themed on kind of the seasons and the sun. You end up flying places.
Anybody who's looking for it, type in AVE space NOX Ave Nox. Yeah, this one looks really cool too. It's funny because me and you're definitely drawn to the same styles of artwork. Like I see this, it looks very 1970s, just sort of creepy, almost Edward Gorey style of art.
Yeah, it's got kind of that kind of old horror film almost kind of style to it.
Yeah, but the contents, according to what I found, 250 plus room dungeon, system neutral, like you said, 19 distinct areas, each with their own hazards, features, and monsters.
Yeah, really cool looking mega dungeon. Lots of neat, interesting. The other one I got, same studio, Feral Indie Studio, so the same guys behind it, called The Vast in the Dark Expanded.
All right.
And this is about a horrid liminal space called The Vast in the Dark, where you can your characters can find yourself to a system neutral. They give you a whole bunch of recommended systems, including Dungeon Crawl Classics, Knave, Old School Essentials, Troika, Morkborg, Black Hack, Mothership.
Black Hack, never heard of that one.
Man, they hit like the whole gambit of everything, didn't they?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can use it with, but the whole thing is you're in a You find yourself in an area where the sky is completely black. There's colorless sand, and there's like the only thing that's invisible is occasionally ruins and a monolithic, gigantic pillars like out in the distance that seem to hold up the sky. And it's the way they kind of said it is when you come into this place, you are all travelers in here. This whole place wears at you and kind of hollows you out. And so there's like whatever system is when your adventurers find themselves, they write down 5 core memories or 5 important memories to them. And as things happen to you throughout your exploration of this place, you can start to cross off those memories. And if you lose all of them, you become lost to the dark, and you like wander off and either turn into a completely lost. You become an NPC basically. You either are just completely lost, you break down and do nothing, or start wandering towards the darkest part of the world that you could find, or you turn into a monster.
Oh man!
Having lost all personality and will and sense of self.
So that it gives like it's not just hit points you're worried about at that point. There's other problems.
Yes. Yeah, hit points are not your biggest danger here. But the whole thing is like a toolkit you can use. It gives you ways to, how do you explore this place you're in? Just by rolling a handful of dice, you can generate locations, and then gives you, tables to roll and to look at just where the dice fall on a hex and what the numbers they are, and then what that means, what those locations are. And then you can even drill down into each of those locations. You can see more about it. So it's a whole toolkit you can use to kind of build out a generative exploration that you can go with very low prep, because you can just kind of roll things as you come to them. And there's factions you can find in the dark from people, other survivors that have been stuck here longer than you, to people that have really weird ideas about where they are and what decisions they make because of those weird ideas that they have about where they are and what they're supposed to do to either fix it or leave or break it.
Yeah, this one just gives me all sorts of ideas. This is why I enjoy seeing or owning things like this. It's why I own so many of the old D&D modules. I don't actually run them. I steal ideas from them. It sends my mind running into creative directions, and something like this does the exact same thing.
Yeah, that is kind of why I got this. I don't know that I would run it as is, but I think it's an excellent toolkit in different ways you can use for. You can even just drop in part of it if you want to make a creepy part of your world that people can get lost in if they don't know. It doesn't have to be this place. You can just say, "Oh, I'm going to use this to generate this creepy wasteland part of my world," and where travelers can get lost easily and lose themselves.
Yeah, maybe they get into a fight with some big badass who sends them to some little pocket dimension that's whatever this is, and you have to find a way out.
And then all of a sudden you're on a bridge.
And next thing you know, you land on top of a bridge where there's just the sky above and nothing below.
That's my answer for most things right now.
At the end of Ave Nox, they actually allude to someone else's work that you could, if you wanted to continue exploring downward. They mentioned something called, and I don't have a physical copy of this right now, though I think the author is in process of creating a new version of it, but something called Veins in the Earth.
Okay. So you go from one mega dungeon to another mega dungeon.
It's what they call it in Veins, they call it their mythic underworld, and it's what if you made the Underdark way more weird and creepy and a little less defined?
I'm here for it.
Like the darkness in the Underdark isn't just it's dark because you're underground. It's the darkness is a thing that is actively hostile to you and everything around it.
I like it.
This also kind of reminds me of that one book I picked up at Gary Con, The Black Ballad, where it's basically starts once your party TPKs. That's when this book starts. Like you start basically over, and it's basically a metal opera of like an afterlife world that you have to kind of play through. I really kind of like that. You know, you can go through the whole session and this is how you play, and then all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, something happened, and now you're on a bridge, or now you're in this giant metal opera. You know, it's really kind of cool.
Yep.
I like ideas like that. Stories never end.
Yeah, that's what I had. So just some cool stuff I picked up and wanted to give a shout out to, and talk about a little bit. Really cool toolkits, mega dungeon and adventure you can use.
You do pick up the best stuff, Kristian.
I try to find stuff. Yeah.
Definitely find some really unique stuff for sure.
Uh-huh.
All right, Waples, tell us how you TPK'd a party this week, okay?
I actually haven't TPK'd a party this week.
It's
Yet.
at least been 2 weeks, okay.
Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks. My Adventures League group is actually doing pretty good. We're running through the GaryCon modules right now, and they're playing pretty solid. No real issues. They're being smart about it.
So they haven't died since the Lich killed them all.
No, and what's fun to know is that the player that I have that was kind of like very young and immature about it he's still young and immature, but he's kind of taken more of a like, oh, I got a wizard now, and I got all these spells, and I can turn the encounter around with a single spell. And I've mentioned a few of his things with like the Lehman's Tiny Hut and the Storm and the Fireball and the Tar Pit and stuff like that on here before. So it's just kind of more the same of that. They're working their way through the second one of the 4 modules from the GaryCon Adventure League thing, and they're doing really, really good. No, what I have to talk about is even more exciting, but I'm gonna ramp up in excitedness.
Oh man, we're gonna see him excited.
So the first thing that happened this weekend for me is it was Atomicon here in Charleston. And when I got there, I was the only person that showed up. Big giant shit-eating grin on my face right now.
That is not a good way to do a convention.
No, it was not. There were very few people there. Definitely more vendor tables than there were people there. And that's not, I'm not even counting the people behind the tables running it. Like they had like 2 people or 3 people. There was just nobody there. Many of the conventions, or not the conventions, but the panels that kicked off didn't have anyone in it. And I was kind of just, I went there so I could talk to Orthane Productions and talk to the Keshinar folks, because they were here again. Shout out to David again for spending time with me and talking to me about the game and showing me the really cool build out that they had of Keshinar and the city, and he was showing me the engine and showed me some where the Easter eggs were and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Really cool. But one of the panels that I just kind of peeked in, like of all the panels that was there, like this was the one that I had interest in. It was called something along the lines of how to write for someone else's universe. Okay. Now, there were no like sheets that were handed out to the people who went to this convention. So I didn't know who was running the panel, just that this panel happened at 2 or whatever.
Okay.
Well, it was about 2:30 when I peeked in, and I just saw just a lady sitting there by herself, and I felt terrible. Like, I don't know who she was. So I went in and I sat down and I talked with her. I was like, this is, one of the panels I actually would have liked to attend, and I didn't know it was 2:30. Who are you? And let's talk about writing for somebody else's universe.
Who are you?
Well, I didn't know because the panel sheet didn't list who the guest speakers were, so I had no idea. So the person that I spoke to was Delilah S. Dawson. Does that name sound familiar for any of you guys?
It does not.
Okay, Google her, Delilah S. Dawson.
Author of Phasma.
Yes, she wrote Phasma for Star Wars. Remember Gwendolyn Christine's character in the new movies?
Okay. The book came out about her.
She wrote the book backstory to that character. My favorite character because
Okay, so she's written several Star Wars books. She wrote a Spider-Man book or a comic. I can't tell for sure.
She wrote. Well, I got a listing of book. I got her little postcard that has all the stuff that she wrote. She wrote.
She's writing. She's part of the Ravenloft.
No,
yeah,
you got ahead of me.
I did. Don't ever tell me to Google somebody and expect me to not start fucking talking about it.
Yeah, so she wrote a bunch of comics: Lady Castle, Sparrowhawk, Starpig, Firefly the Sting, The X-Files, Case Files, Florida Man. I thought that was awesome. Adventure Time 66 through 69, Marvel Action Spider-Man 2019, Rick and Morty Presents Pickle Rick, Batman the Brave and the Bold 10 and 13, The Poison Within, Jim Henson's Labyrinth Beyond the Goblin City. So she's already got some chops there when it comes to comics. And then she has a bunch of young adult books. She wrote a Minecraft Mob Squad series, which she gave me a copy for my daughter. She wrote Phasma, Galaxy Edge's Black Spire, Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade. And then up next, what comes out later this month on May 13th, D&D Ravenloft, Hair of Strahd.
And Hair, not Hair.
Hair of Strahd, yes.
No, okay.
Hair of Strahd, got it. So the best part is I went in there from like just let's talk about writing in other people's world, and I said, well, I always feel guilty creating stuff that's new to me story-wise in someone else's world. Like I said, I write a lot of I write a lot of D&D stuff. I write a lot of stuff in the Forgotten Realms, and I kind of feel like nothing I do matters because I'm writing in this giant sandbox, So how do I make an impact on something in a world that's so big while I'm just like this small fly? And how do I make my players or my readers, in her case, like feel connected in something that I'm making up that's unique to me, in something that may have some conflicts with? And then she just took off talking about Strahd and the Domains of Dread and Ravenloft. Like, that is her campaign setting. She talked to me about how much she spent time reading about the Domains of Dread and playing games in the Domains of Dread. She's bona fide 1,000% nerd. Like, I was in awe of how much that she did. And then she mentioned she was writing the Ravenloft book.
Oh, I just want to point out, she went to Roswell High School for our Atlanta natives here.
Is that like where aliens show up?
Yes. Yeah, totally. Okay. So she apparently she's an Atlanta native also.
But she gave me some good advice on that, and basically how to handle it. She's like, well, there are certain things you can't touch, like Strahd. Strahd's a very, serious character, but you can focus not on just the setting, but focus more on the characters that you have and the events that are happening. Like, you can go as crazy as you want. You're not going to make waves per se. And because the panel was essentially over by the time I really got into talking with her, I didn't get a chance to really, poke her for information. But like I said, the con was pretty sparse of people. Orthane Productions, they didn't seem pleased that there were so few people, but they had a demo that had a few people show up, and they had a table running Keshanar that was always full of people. So I'm glad that they got a lot of exposure while they were there.
If you're any sort of a vendor, I mean, you're having to pay your employees, you're having to rent space, and your goal is to sell product. If you don't sell product, you don't make money. So if there's not anybody there, everybody who showed up as a vendor just lost money.
Yeah.
So I would imagine nobody's happy about that, and those vendors probably will not do it next year.
Yeah, I can't speak for them. I did see a couple other cool things. I guess there's a Ghostbusters like fan club, like the 501st or the Mandalorian club. Like, there's a Ghostbusters club here in Charleston. which is kind of neat. A lot of people selling 3D prints of things, which I don't know about you guys, but I can appreciate the 3D printing community. I love everything that's there. I love that the STL files exist for people to pull down and print something. But if you're just going to run your printer nonstop and make 1,000 fucking gray Pikachus, and you're going to slap $25 on that Pikachu, I ain't buying it.
Yeah.
No one's going to buy that crap. Like, I don't care if you change the filaments and popped in some white eyes. Like, I don't want to be a snob about it, but like I've been seeing this quite a lot recently, and going from Festival of Legends recently, and then here at this con, a lot of people just having booths full of 3D printed junk, and
that most of it will just end up in the trash or at a thrift store at some point because people aren't going to buy that.
So, I went through all that, and I got to talk to like I said, I talked to Orthane Productions and had a really great time. They had one of their employees out there. His name is Jay Yamil. I forgot his first name. I think it's Jose Yamil.
Yeah, I talked to him at GaryCon.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because I didn't talk to him at all. He actually had our stickers and everything ahead of time. So
yeah, I
was
gave
like,
him stickers.
How'd you get those? Well, I gave him our bigger sticker, and he was hyped about that. But he had some of his stuff that he was like. They actually like Orthane Productions gave him a little bit of their booth so he could put his stuff up there. And so he had a little zine here called "When the Sky Comes Looking for You," a Weird Frontiers DCC RPG little zine that he wrote.
Because he's written some like he was at the panel that David Haddon was at, and during GaryCon he was in the panel with him. But he was talking about he had written for oh god, what do they call it? The DCC zine before.
So I
got his card here some damn where. So
I picked that up, and he showed me some of the artwork that he had. Like, I guess the artist that worked on some of the Shadow Dark stuff did stuff for him. And then he had like 2 like church pamphlets. That's the best way I can describe them. Like the trifold piece of paper.
Yeah.
You know, that I always get when I go to church. It says, "Oh, we're gonna sing this hymn today." Oh, fucking great. I hate that one. You know. But it's like a one shot. He has the Mother, Maiden, and Crone OSR one, and he had something called Repentless. Just a small, like, little system neutral adventure. And like, that's really cool. Like, that's I need to throw up something like this so I can just hand them out to people. Like, here you go.
Adventures have become kind of a thing for the like indie community, indie game, TTRPG space. Has something to do. Though I've from what I've seen, for me, and I've seen other people echo this, I feel like that's a harder to do than a longer adventure, because like you got to put something that is catchy and good together in a trifold space. I am very impressed with all the people that can pull that off and do it well, because I think just the constraints of the format and the space is a lot.
Yeah, it is definitely something that I was impressed by, and I took a quick glance at them and was like, okay, these are pretty good. We talked a bit about like the indie printing space and stuff like that. He gave me some pointers about what to do and everything, and I got his card so I can reach out to him. And
good, because apparently I lost mine, or maybe I might have given it to Kristian.
Oh yeah, blame him.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I was doing at GaryCon. I was getting people's cards and then giving them to somebody else because I would lose them.
Yeah. Here, hold this. You got the bag of holding. There was one vendor. I bought from 2 vendors. One chick was one who would hand paint like coasters and like prime them. I bought a coaster from her, and I bought another lady that had like wood burned like keychains and stuff like that, and like dice boxes. Not 3D printed stuff, but that was my Saturday, and then Sunday. Oh my God, Sunday! So I was at my LGS on Wednesday, and when I walked into the D&D room, there were just boxes and boxes of 3rd edition, 2nd edition, and 4th edition just sitting on the table. And I was like, what the hell is this? And there's basically Synergy Gamers, the owner Andrew, was able to acquire a man's collection who had just recently passed. And he was given all that stuff to basically, find a good home for it, basically sell it or give it to people who are into the space. And I was like, okay, that's some kind of cool stuff. So he basically, there was an exchange and all that stuff was left there, and I got a chance to basically go through everything and sort through and organize all the books. And I filled an entire bookshelf with this guy's stuff. It would take me an hour just to list everything that he had. So just some highlights of some stuff that I found in there.
You listed a bunch of it last week.
Huh?
Said you listed a bunch of the stuff.
That was my
haul.
collection.
Was that a different? Okay.
Yeah,
that was
a completely different haul.
That was my collection that I got from another dead guy. So right now there's a lot of guys in Charleston that are dying that have D&D collections. And so I'm going to find out where they all are and help them transfer off this mortal coil and take their stuff.
Wow. Spoken like a true murder hobo.
Yep.
Yeah. So first off, he had an extensive 2nd edition collection. He had all like the class books and stuff like that, along with a lot of Forgotten Realms books and like the monstrous compendiums. Like he had like 4 volumes of that stuff. He had a Planescape monsters compendium.
I'll never forgive you for not grabbing for me.
I mean, you're Kristian. You already have that one. There's 3 of them that are out there, and that's only the first one. So
yeah, but it's in rough shape, so I'm always looking for replacements.
Oh, well, that's fair.
Yeah. And so he also had some Dark Sun stuff. He had actually the Dragon King's book, which was a great thing.
Great book.
Yeah. I mean, I got to refresh my screen here and pull up the...
You used to have Tyr too, right?
Sorry?
He had City State of Tyr, I think.
I believe so, yeah.
I think he should have it all.
A
good one.
He had a bunch of Dark Sun adventures. There was these really cool books, these fast play games that were written by Jeff Grubb. Like just at the end of 2nd edition, right before 3rd edition, when I checked the dates on them. Those look pretty cool. And then like a series of adventurers that seem to revolve around the weirdest looking beholder ever. He looks like a mushroom. And that's the best way to describe him. It's the Eye of Pain, Eye of Doom, Eye to Eye like series of books for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And it's just it looks like the beholder looks like a mushroom with like little fungi eye stalks. It's just so weird. And
yeah, I've never seen that one. That's probably he's probably not a beholder. It's probably a variant because there are a lot of variants.
There are a lot of variants, but I think that's just the beholder. It's just very weird. But you Google AD&D Eye of Pain, you can see him there. He looks like a weird testicle. Yeah. A lot of Greyhawk stuff as well too. And there was some things I saw while I was kind of going through a couple of the books that were very interesting. Where is it? I'm looking at all the pictures that I have on my phone, guys. So I apologize for stumbling a little bit.
You're fine. You had shared. Sorry, go. You had shared a stack of books in the photos earlier. The quintessential fighter, cleric, etc., etc. While they kind of are designed to look like the 2nd edition books, they're actually the 3rd edition ones.
Yeah,
they are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
They were designed to kind of call back to the 2nd edition complete book series, the complete book of fighters, complete book of that, but they're the 3.5 or 3.0 version of that.
Yeah, the Mongoose Publishing one. They're another group that made
No.
a bunch of 3rd edition
Yeah,
stuff.
those I put with the 3rd edition stuff.
Okay, you had mentioned that earlier, so I wasn't sure if that's the ones you were talking about or not. So
no, I was trying to find them. Oh yeah, here's the one. The Forgotten Realms Powers of the Pantheon. So you guys were talking about this before I got in. With the 6-armed dude with the 42 stack abs.
yeah.
I don't know what that art is, whether that guy's like mid-swing or he actually has all those arms. But that 2nd edition book was very weird.
Yeah.
And then he had a bunch of 3rd edition stuff. He has all these Forgotten Realms books as well too. Not to mention, he had an extensive amount of D20 system books.
Yeah.
And basically that's 3rd 3.5 if I remember correctly. He had a ton of that and a ton of other Mongoose Publishing books like you mentioned, Jay.
Mm-hmm.
Also in the hole I found The Sons of Grummish by Chris Perkins. I was like, that is cool.
I was wondering why you had that one separated in the photos. I did not realize it was Perkins.
It was Perkins. I took that one home with me just so I could read through it. But I plan on returning that to the store. A lot of 3rd edition stuff like the Fane of the Drowse, the Sunless Citadel, the Standing Stone. I believe I had Pool of Radiance, Attack on Myth Draenor, and Forgotten Realms Into the Dragon's Lair. I thought that was kind of a standout set of books for 3rd edition as well too.
I saw that Pool of Radiance book, but I did not realize. I didn't read it. I just, Attack on Myth Draenor. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Dan, you would probably remember a lot better than I, because I remember Pool of Radiance, the video game, and I have the fucking novel somewhere. But did it take place in Myth Draenor? Because I don't think so. Or is Dan even still here?
He died.
I mean, Dan he's a little.
Hold on a second.
I
was on mute. So that actually came out at the end of 2nd edition, early 3rd edition era. It was a video game. I don't know whether it was a video game first or whether it was as a module first, but by all reports, it was a complete garbage module, both video game as well as the module itself. It has really nothing to do with Pool of Radiance other than they jammed one into Myth Draenor.
Okay, because I did not think there was a pool in Myth Draenor. I had never heard of that.
I don't know. Let's consult the Forgotten Realms Wikipedia because I read through it in a game shop and like this is fucking stupid and put it back on the shelf.
As someone who played through all of those old gold box SSI games, including Pool of Radiance,
I absolutely did. Yeah.
But
this wasn't an SSI game at all, and it showed.
It was. There was a Pool of Radiance SSI gold box game.
No. I'm not talking about that. That I know about. I'm talking about Pool of Radiance Ruins of Myth Draenor was not. It's a game released by Ubisoft in 2001. Based on a D&D module of the same name.
I actually used to own this game.
It was a third-person perspective, similar to the Baldur's Gate series, but unlike Baldur's Gate and other games, Ruins of Myth Draenor featured turn-based combat rather than real-time combat, kind of like the old SSI games. It's dungeon crawl. It basically was completely overshadowed by Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights, which all came around at a very similar time. The basic story is a Dracolich and his sorcerer's queen have seized control of the mythal of the ancient magic that once protected the long-abandoned elven city of Myth Draenor. Once the elven ruin is completely in their thrall, the cult intends to expand its domination one city and soul at a time. 4 heroes are sent to Myth Draenor by Elminster to stop the Dracolich and the sorcerer queen from using the power of the mythal to conquer Faerun. They must travel to all areas of Myth Draenor, from the dungeons below the city itself, the catacombs beneath the city, at all, in an attempt to stop the evil from taking over. I see no effing mention of any sort of Pool of Radiance in this summary at all.
Oh, the
Yeah.
players must acquire the gauntlets of Monder, which is
Melwinder is a throwback, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And the main complaint of the game that was incredibly boring, and a module is based on, is intended for a large player group, which conflicted with the initial lack of multiplayer support. The game was considered incredibly repetitive and boring due to the confusing and seemingly infinite random dungeon layouts and over-reliance on hack and slash gameplay. Yeah, it was a garbage game and definitely not worth delving too deep into. I'm not even sure who.
So in other words, they tacked the Pool of Radiance name onto it, threw in the words Myth Dranor, and they have no bearing whatsoever.
Like the cover art for the actual video game is hilarious. So they just kind of stole the Forgotten Realms logo from 3rd edition off of a book. They took the 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons version of the logo, and then they're like, oh god, we basically made Neverwinter Nights, but it's shitty. Why don't we go ahead and make it turn-based and call back to the SSI games, which were really popular in the 80s and 90s, and called Pool of Radiance? Good idea! And they slapped it all together into one big image on the front cover.
By the way, that art is Braum.
But I mean, it's the layout of all the other shit that's on it. It's and actually,
I know it's terrible.
It says SSI on the bottom of it, but it's clearly not SSI. SSI was dead by this point.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's actually even listed on the Forgotten Realms website as part of the Pool of Radiance series, which I find very strange. Yeah, because the actual last SSI Pool of Radiance series game was Pools of Darkness from 1991.
Yeah,
and it went from Pool of Radiance 1988, Hills Far 1989, which was kind of bridging a gap.
Very different.
Yeah, it was basically just like mini games that they put together, so you can like level up your character to transfer it over to Curse of the Azure Bonds, which was kind of revolutionary for the time. You never could transfer characters from an earlier game to a newer game. And then Curse of the Azure Bonds to Secret of the Silver Blades, which was kind of related. It was a decent game. But then there's Pools of Darkness. The Pools of Darkness was kind of the death knell for the series. It was too high level, too complicated, and again, too repetitive. And they basically tried to just kind of do all the best parts of the first 3 or 4 games, and it just didn't quite work out. I think you ended up being like level 40 in that game, and hanging out in limbo, resting with Elminster as you're traveling from one space to another, trying to do legendary heroic things. It was playing 5e superheroes 20 years before 5e, so it was weird.
Yeah,
but I did play the shit out of it because I mean, what else you can do in 1991 when you're 12 years old?
Warcraft 3
in 1991.
Warcraft 2. Warcraft 1.
Nope, Warcraft wasn't even out. Not even one.
I played Warcraft 3 in like 99, 2000, something around there.
Yeah, so. Warcraft 1 was released in 94, so 3 years later.
The original Wolfenstein.
Yeah, there you go.
OG Wolfenstein. You know, you could definitely play some Doom, Quake.
Yeah.
Some Duke Nukem. But Warcraft, not a thing yet.
I played a lot of Duke Nukem, I will say
Commander
that.
Keen.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Commander Keen was all up on there.
I played a lot of Commander Keen, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Get some freeware, baby. Anyway.
So, here's some other books. I got Star Wars. They had a bunch of Star Wars books. The old 3.5 RPG.
Okay, yeah. This was the 3.5 version, not the West End D6 system Star Wars.
Nope.
Yeah, the D20 system Star Wars is actually pretty good.
Yeah, I definitely think like if there's ever a collector out there who wanted to grab it from the store owner, like they probably could. There seem to be a lot of base books of everything. One of the back covers had this Wookiee with a mustache. That's just the most amazing picture ever. Like I kind of want to make it like my PFP and just use this Wookiee with a mustache because it like his mustache is like light brown and he's dark brown. It just
it's great. It's like he's about to like make a run from Smokey because he's gonna go join Burt Reynolds in a fucking car anytime now.
Very weird.
Yeah, it is an odd thing.
I want to know the Wookiee that's hanging out with Burt Reynolds.
Mm-hmm. Hell yeah, I do.
Yeah,
fucking hang out with that guy.
There were a couple other 3.5 D&D books, but also like cyberpunk books as well too. The Mechton Empire, Mechton 2, Road Striker 2. They're all like mech anime books almost, or like Mad Cat books.
My
I think
my
it's
my my assumption is that it's just using the cyberpunk system and not cyberpunk. Like because I don't remember there ever being anything mecha related in cyberpunk.
Mm-mm.
yeah. The Road Strikers, that's just Transformers. You
Yeah.
know.
It is our Talasaurian games, so it is the same company as Cyberpunk, but
Okay. Then there was the Serenity role playing game and Rifts. I think you guys were talking about Rifts for a little
Oh,
bit
I played
before I
the
got on.
hell out of Rips
yeah.
in high school. That game was that game I will say sold itself based upon the level of awesomeness of the art. The art was pretty incredible for its time. It kind of combined all of the grittiness in seeing like Robotech and things like that to have like to depict all the mecha, but also had a lot of really sci-fi element to it. And really, the story of it was pretty cool. It was a post-apocalyptic Earth where a bunch of ley lines sprouted a bunch of portals and rifts to other dimensions, and there was an apocalypse essentially, and those that remained are basically trying to fight for survival. The problem with it is that it was a weird game system in which you used percentage rolls for all your skills. Creatures, like in the first book, in the book that you have there, all the people, they're just normal people, and if you get shot with a gun, you're going to die unless you're wearing body armor, power armor, or you're piloting a mech or something. The problem was that that game ran into the problem where it was combining vehicular combat with melee combat and ranged combat of squishy people that are piloting these vehicles. So like the way they tried to fix this problem, I guess, in later books was that in the first book you can basically just play a human or human adjacent thing like a mutant or something like that, but you basically get shot with a gun, you're dead unless you're wearing armor. In the later books, you could play like an Atlantean who basically had the same stats as far as being able to take hits like you were a fucking mech. So you'd have this weird crossover where you have a guy who's a juicer who's just like a guy that's just hopped up on chemicals, that's fighting and shooting and everything, but he's wearing just body armor. But once his body armor is all busted up, he's fucked. Whereas you have the Atlantean who's basically the same stats as the man's body armor and then wearing body armor on top of it. And it never really worked out very well because all the later books ended up with all these PC playable races that had the same kind of stats, like I said, as the mechs, and they never fixed it, and they just kept on coming out with a new splat book like twice a year that was the same sort of shit. There was I think I
What
stopped
was the
paying
guy
attention.
where you could punch starships? You were so powerful. You like as an
Oh
individual
God,
person, you would just fly up in there and punch starships out of space.
You mean
yeah, there
Miss Marvel?
was. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, this Palladium had, which was kind of what this is all based on, because the original system was Palladium, which was actually a fantasy-based role-playing system. And they kind of took the magic system from Palladium and then took their sci-fi and post-apocalyptic ideas and kind of squished them all together. And they also had if I recall correctly, they had the copyright and licensing to publish Robotech adventures as well. So they took basically the stats from Robotech, the stats from Palladium, smashed them all together with some really cool and appealing art, and then tried to sell the product. And it sold like hotcakes in the 90s. I'm not going to lie.
I bought it.
I probably bought 10 different Rifts books that I still have down in the basement. I even have like an autographed one. Saw the guys when they were at Dragon Con and Gen Con when I was a kid. Absolutely love their stuff. But, it's rough to play just because it is so different which books. It's one of those things where if you're going to play the game, you got to play it with the base book the way it was intended. And if you want to use any of the secondary books, it's basically you're just using it for information and material and background, and you can't let PCs pick up guns or mechs or PC races from any of those other books, or the game is just shot. It's like pulling out 3 decks of many things, and then trying to let the PCs fuck around with it. It is crazy what happens and ends up happening in that game. I've never actually played a Rifts game all the way through without 99% of the PCs dying. Like usually by the time the end of the game ends, it's because everyone's on their 5th PC because they just fucking die all the time. And it's not like the fun part of dying where like it's OSR where you can very quickly create a new character. It took a long time to create a character in this game.
Yeah.
Especially with all the splat books, and you're like, yeah, we're starting over in Atlantis. Oh yeah, they have a completely different group of PC playable races, and also guns and equipment and what occupational character classes called OCC, I think. It's a really cool book, and it's sort of an artifact of that era, Waples. I would definitely look through it and check out especially all the color art in the middle of it. There's probably about 30, 40 pages which kind of tell the story of basically their entire game story of how they got to where they were. But it's worth looking through it just as an artifact, but I would never actually play that game again.
The lore that's in that book is well worth digging through, though. Like,
yeah, they were excellent writers, but the system itself, like, it was ad hoc and trash. It was not good, even for the time period. It was not good.
Yeah, it's very, very overcomplicated, and yeah, I played it a few times, ran it a couple of times. I love the setting, didn't love the system.
Mm-mm. Yeah,
fair enough. So a couple of the other books, the more D20 books, but there's the Bastards Bloodlines, a guide to half-breeds. And on the cover is...
You'd never be able to sell that today.
And on the cover is essentially, all I can say, that's just a Draenei. I did before,
that's
I did
exactly
before Draenei existed. So I don't know what the combo of races are. Tiefling and Orc, maybe?
What year did that book come out?
I don't know.
Yeah, because
the one I can picture.
Draenei.
No, I think it's before Draenei, because
No,
Draenei didn't happen until World of Warcraft.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the cover. No, that's a gargoyle.
What is
The
Draenei? What are you guys talking about?
It's World of Warcraft.
In World of Warcraft, they introduced a demon race called the Draenei. They're space goats, and that's what they look like.
You say space goat?
Yes.
Yeah, we call them space goats, yeah. But the other half-breed, that's a Mind Flayer drow.
I don't know, Kristian, just don't ask.
Yeah, you know what? I don't care.
that is a Mind Flayer drow. That is a drow female with a squid face, and I love it.
Yes, it is.
And Beyond Monks, the Art of the Fight, that's just a Jackie Chan photo.
So I will say that that's most likely came out in 3rd edition, because 3rd edition is when you had templates, and you can apply a template that would increase your effective CR or your level. Like, for example, like if you're like a half dragon or something like that, the rest of the party could be level 5, and you'd still be level 1, but you'd have all the benefits of being a half dragon. So, like, I could definitely see there being a half drow, half illithid, or some bullshit in 3rd edition. And it was a weird way to handle that, but it kind of sort of worked. It never really worked out as a PC, but if you wanted to build a monster, it was a pretty good way of building a monster. I don't think I ever successfully saw anybody be a half anything that was increasing your what was it called, level adjustment bonus or something like that, Kristian?
Yeah, the level adjustment.
Yeah, that's right.
It never really worked out, because you'd always just feel like, even if you had all these cool extra stats and abilities and stuff like that, if your wizard has fireball and you're still a level 1 fucking fighter, it doesn't matter you got a 24 constitution, you're still going to die to that fireball.
So here's the thing. Yeah, the adding a template for the level adjustment probably never worked out, but they also did the exact same thing, level adjustments with the playable races. So you could play monster races with level adjustments too. And it depended on whether or not your game master would allow that, but that could absolutely work out, because to play an illithid was a level adjustment of like 8 levels.
Yeah, so that would never work out. But
everybody, that would have worked out great, because at first level, everybody's first level, including you, but you've got fucking Mind Blast. You have all of the illithid powers.
Yeah, you just didn't gain anything for 8 levels, but you start out with all the stuff, which was ridiculous.
When you hit 4th level, it's a problem, because then your hit points are still first level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a weird system. I'm glad it's gone, but it was definitely another artifact of its time, and that's basically sounds like just a book that somebody made as far as the OGL that kind of expanded upon that.
Yeah, it's the D20 system, one of those books. So,
Right.
yeah.
So a couple other fun things, just a lot of other D20 system books, and it seems to go crazy with all those. So getting to the stuff that I really was looking forward to, the 4th edition books.
Oh, boy.
Let him have his fun.
Let me have my fun.
No, I will not.
Aww.
Go
Just
ahead.
a moment, and then I will say my piece.
So going through the 4th edition books and having gone through a lot of the 2nd edition books now too, I really like the side books that they both seem to have, where it's like, okay, here's the complete book of fighters, here's the complete book of thieves. And the 4th kind of had a little bit of that. I don't know if I have it in the photos, but like there's like the Dragonborn book, there's a Tiefling book. I got those. I was actually given those by the store owner because it helped complete my collection. And there's also a bunch of books that I never picked up for 4th, which was like the martial power books, the primal power books, the psionic books, because those were like, I don't need this book of just like spells, because I have the character builder that already has it all built in. So I never had to buy the books to basically get these things if I was playing like in hardcover. So being able to actually acquire those books, and while it helps me complete my collection, I really would like to see something like that in the 5th edition range of things, but I don't think that ever will. There were a bunch of good adventures, like the Keep on the Shadowfell, the Thunderspire Labyrinth. They had the Dark Sun adventure for the Dark Sun 4E, the Marauders of the Dune Sea, which is pretty awesome. And they just had a lot of just the Eberron campaign books and just a lot of the other really cool books to go through. The Monsters Vault, the Threats of the Nintir Vale, that is my favorite monster book, like so far printed in my span of playing the game. There's a lot of really cool monsters in it. My favorite monster is actually in there too. It's called the Corpse Collector, which is basically like this giant like Warforged mech that walks around battlefields and just sticks corpses to it. So fucking cool. And the Adventurer's Vault are like the treasure books, and having both of those is really neat. So he actually got a lot of good stuff. I'm actually going to give him some of my books that I have duplicates of to complete his collection. So like Player's Handbook 2, Monster Manual 3, things like that, to help kind of like, share the load and have more stuff.
Yep.
But the shining jewel of this whole collection is the amount of Dragon magazines that this man had. And I don't know the exact number, but I can give you a good estimate. I bought a 100 pack of sleeves and boards so I could board all these Dragon mags.
Mm-hmm.
And I used like all but 10. So about 90.
That's a
in
lot.
total. It is a lot.
Good.
And there are a couple. I kind of like thumb through them all just to check the condition of the books and make sure they all were good. But there are a couple things, mostly comics, that I had to stop and kind of look at and go, well, what the fuck were they thinking back here in the 70s and 80s? There's one image where basically there's a Sphinx on top of a wall staring at a bunch of adventurers that says, "No, I'm not going to hurt you, but I want you out of my litter box." I just, I laughed at that. And then I scrolled down and look at the comic below, which the joke is like he is, it's like an armor smith, and he's being yelled at by his wife. Says, "No, stupid, his headgear doesn't unscrew." And the guy has the human's head in his helmet. But his sword on this like armor stand that's now remaining of this corpse because the guy ripped his head off, he has like his sword drawn like in front of him, like it's a giant dangling penis.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
like it's so apparent. Like I don't know who E.B. Wagner is, but he liked to draw penises, it seems. So it was funny seeing that. There was two comics that I saw pop up a lot: Snarf Quest and Wormy.
Yeah. Wormy, Snarf Quest, Nodwick.
Nodwick,
Yeah.
I saw that too. The Snarf Quest looked kind of really cool. Like that, I like that artwork a lot. It's kind of like Ratfink in a way. That's the best way I can compare it to. But there's like I said, I had so much of it, and like I think I had a lot of like the 140s to 180s. I had like almost a complete numbering of those, as well as like a couple of issues like in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah,
Um,
I see a couple of the very, very early ones that were in there. Issue number 3 and issue number 8. Oh well, those are different volumes. So it's volume 2, number 8, volume 3, number 3. So I guess that's probably 23 and 18, but that's still really damn early.
So, well, hold on. I think what you're looking at was something different.
It's the
when
Dragon
when
magazine.
when I was going through it, that's not the dragon. That's the Drago.
Oh shit!
Dragoh.
Really? Because they have a similar font and everything. Wow! Somebody.
Right. No, it's like it felt like it was a knockoff. Okay.
All right.
It's not numbered as Dragon is or Dungeon Magazine is, but it's published and written by Gary Gygax. I brought these home with me so I could look more into them. Give me a second.
This is a conversation. I'm very curious about these.
So
Give me a
we're
second.
talking about the Dragon, because that was the earlier iteration of Dragon Magazine, if I recall.
Yeah, it was before it just went to
Yes.
Dragon Magazine. It was called the Dragon.
Yeah, see,
Okay.
that's what. Yeah. The original one was the Dragon. I just, you said the Drago, and that does kind of look like an H there, but I was thinking it was the Dragon. So I think these are just the very early Dragon magazines.
Yeah, that's
probably
what they are.
probably number 18 and number 23, I would assume, because of the volumes.
Yeah, you can find PDFs of them all online these days. So
Yeah.
you'll be able to search and find them.
Yeah, because when I opened it up and looked at them, like I said, the font looked like it said Drago because it's like this weird, funky font. I thought it was like a spoof magazine that he wrote himself. So I'm glad I got a little bit wrong. I did get captivated, but what I thought was essentially what's his name? The guy with the helmet and the skull shield.
Oh,
Warduke?
Yeah, Warduke.
Yeah, Warduke.
One looks like Warduke with like a half naked.
That's definitely Warduke.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So I don't know who the lady is behind him or to next to him, but she's just wearing clamshells over her tits. So I approve.
It's
Like you do
1978
in the 70s.
I mean, check
Yeah,
out
as you do. Yeah.
Yeah, and the guy in the bottom of that looks like I don't know, David Bowie or some shit with crazy hair.
There were only, I think, 3 or 4 dungeon magazines, and he also had the Best of Dragon Volume 2 and 3.
Oh,
So
those are pretty valuable.
So I brought those home mostly so I could look through them and read them and just kind of have fun with those. And one thing that I saw in there, just in one of the Dragon magazines, was a picture of essentially. I was like, "Oh, that's Ed Greenwood. Who's that other wizard?" And then I looked to the right, and it says Elminster is greeted by Mordenkainen. So there's a picture that I gave you guys that has basically Mordenkainen and Elminster sitting there drinking wine.
Yeah.
I thought was so
They
cool.
used to have a series of articles in Dragon Magazine, the Mages 3, where it was Elminster, Mordenkainen, and the Dalamar from Dragonlance would get together and talk about magic, and they would usually post a few new spells because they were trading spells from their world, like playing poker with spell scrolls and stuff, and then they would give you you would get stats for 3 or 4 or 6 new spells.
That's really cool. Like I said, now that I have access to these, I may look at some of the PDFs, but there's just something about sitting down and like thumbing through a magazine that just, reminds me of the good old days when I didn't have any cares in the world.
Yeah, I've been screaming that for years. You're always like, old man yells at cloud.
What? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. My ears are faint.
Both can be true.
One more Dragon Mag thing that I thought was fun as hell is in the Dragon Mags, there was always an insert or board game or something along those lines that you could like pop out and like play. Most of the inserts are missing. Some of the board games are missing. Some of them are in there. But there was one board game that was still there called Dino Wars.
Oh man.
And I had to read through this one, but essentially,
I remember that one.
it's you take out your plastic dinosaurs and you take out your plastic army men. And these are the rules and how the US Army meets the dinosaurs and the fight to the death. And it gives you movement for basically the dinosaurs and the army men and how they attack each other, like how the dinosaurs overrun the army men and how the army men fire back and have their attack phase and everything. They had the sequence of play and everything. I just thought that was so cool. Like that kind of creativeness is just lost in today's day and age. So maybe kind of sad, but I thought it was kind of awesome. And last but not least, the last piece I want to get is something I did not send a photo of because I didn't want Jay freaking out too much.
Uh-oh. This
Here we
better
go.
be good. I'm waiting to see it.
I don't know what specifically it is, other than just what the cover is. And the cover made me jump out because it looks like one of the old D&D module covers. And essentially, it's Dungeon Crawl Classics #1, Idlis of the Rat King by Jeffrey Quinn, an adventure for characters level 1 through 3. And it's by Goodman Games with a very old logo.
Yes.
And it just is like, I have to read through this. This has got to be amazing. I don't think it's really Dungeon Crawl Classics from.
No,
from
it
that.
is.
It is.
So Goodman Games has been making DCC for over 20 years. When they started making them, it was for the D20 system, which is essentially 3rd edition.
Yeah, which is what this is. Yeah.
That was what Dungeon Crawl Classics was.
Okay. So I got their first module.
I would assume so.
Yeah.
I don't know what the first one is, but it says #1. So.
So I thought you would like to see that. I got that one. Hid that one from you.
Yeah. It was actually in one of the photos you sent, but I couldn't see the entirety of it. I could just see part of it. I was like, oh, he got an old module.
So that's just a kind of overview of the haul. Like I'm going to be reading through some of these. Like I grabbed a couple stuff to read through so I can read the Drago.
The Drago magazine. Yeah.
The Drago.
The Drago. And just, maybe I can, find something in there that's fun to talk about, other than just like collection that I got. I know we've had like 3 or 4 collection episodes back to back to back, but it's just the great stuff.
Yeah, stop finding all of my collection that I need to buy.
I mean, you're finding my fucking childhood here. Come on.
Yeah, that's true.
All
right, you done yet, Waples? You've been talking for like an hour, man.
Yeah. I have, but
done.
I am done. We are at the hour, so I guess it's time for the ecology, right?
Whoa! One more thing.
Okay.
One more thing. I said I wasn't going to be talking too much, and I accidentally muted myself, so obviously I haven't. But apparently, this last weekend, Goodman Games announced that they'll be reworking and re-releasing the City-State of the Invincible Overlord for both 5e and Dungeon Crawl Classics. So,
what is that?
Kristian, you've read through it, so I'll let you elaborate on this.
So this is part of their same series of. I know you guys have picked up several of the other ones of this series, like the Dark Tower and Caverns of Thracia. This is their original modules, kind of reimagined series. They are taking the old Judges Guild stuff, and they are bringing it back to 5th edition and DCC. They usually include the actual original content somewhere in it too. Of this, but this is going to be one of those deluxe that's in the same vein as Caverns of Thracia and Dark Tower. I think they did another one. Keep on the Borderlands.
Maybe? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Keep on the Borderlands.
And the Isle of Dread as well.
Yeah. So they were trying to specifically get a lot of the stuff that that Janelle Jaques worked on when they were working with her. But this is one that they wanted because this is one of the more well-known Judges Guild titles.
Yeah, there's quite a few, and I will say that if you haven't picked up any of these Goodman Games Adventures Reimagined, the original Adventures Reincarnated, rather, they are incredibly well put together. Not only are they 5e and DCC, but like Christian mentioned, they also include the entirety of the original module. But they also do a great amount of research on the original product, the notes of the original authors, the artists, as well as if they can find them, interviews with the original as well. Because I'm looking through right now the Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, the third original Adventures Reincarnated, and the chapter 1 is actually basically a back history on Expedition to the Barrier Peaks. And then the next part of it is an interview with Tony DiTerlizzi about wizards and goblins and spaceships. Yes, please. The next one is Painting the Froghemoth with Errol Otis. And it has like a step-by-step of him taking photographs of the Froghemoth that's on the cover. And it's just absolutely amazing what they managed to go through. And these books are thick. They're as thick as like an encyclopedia. They're double the thickness of your average D&D 5e book. And those are, 400 pages nowadays. So they're pretty great. Like in each of these books, you could probably run these adventures plus the expansion that they've put into these for years. This is a full campaign in each of these books, and even the Keeping the Borderlands, they added a whole bunch of extra material to it because it's not just called Keeping the Borderlands anymore; it's Into the Borderlands. So it has a bunch of supplemental material, expands on the Caves of Chaos, and so on. So, I mean, even if I never like Jay, even if I never end up running these modules, I can still flip through them and find enough cool stuff to steal out of them to add to my own games.
So, City State of the Invincible Overlord was an exhaustively in-depth detail on a city-state. In this case, just everything you could find in the city, all kinds of districts, who was in that district, people of note, shops. It covered a metropolis level city in just exhaustive detail, all kinds of adventure hooks, places you can go, things that the city was worried about, like orcs in the wildlands, or this swamp over here that had these monsters. So it had threats to the city, places to go for adventures outside the city, places to adventure within the city, like in the sewers and crypts under the city, factions in the city that were all playing against each other if you wanted to get in the political side of things. So it's just just a huge, really in-depth and detailed dive into one like capital metropolis city and all the kinds of things that you could do there if you wanted. So it was really meant so you could run all kinds of different types of games. If you want to just run, standard adventurers that use the city as a home base, you've got all the kinds of things you need to do that. If you want to run, political campaign of characters getting involved in the politics of the city and the different factions that are playing each other, and it's almost more of like medieval Shadowrun, where the nobles hire you to go like be deniable assets to go f with the other noble families, and you can play that kind of game. So you can get involved with the Thieves Guild if you all wanted to play kind of nefarious rogues and cutthroats and stuff, and just do heist missions and that kind of thing. So it had a lot of details to just play things within a city. All the information you would need would be at hand there, so you didn't have to come up with it yourself, and you could just use the city as a playground.
Mm-hmm. Now, at the time it came out, that would have been one of the first, if not the first, thing like that.
Yeah, it was. It was one of the first to go to that level of detail. So you just had, and for me, it's always great when they have like, okay, well, if you're in this area of the city, here's just all kinds of different NPCs. You don't have to use them, but it's great to always have that list of like, oh, I don't need to find a shopkeeper and then think of a name on the fly because my players wanted to go to the store. Hey, they list here's different shops in this district, and here's the name of the shopkeeper that runs them. Great. I just go here and pick this guy and say, yep, you're talking to this guy, Ted the potato merchant.
Yeah. Love that guy.
So it'll be really interesting to see what they do with it as far as their kind of reimagining and recreate of it, if whether they're going to go. Because originally, I think they had a big kind of like booklet that they put out, but they also published a whole bunch of stuff for it in pages of different fantasy zines and magazines at the time, where you would get little pieces of the city in that. So I don't know how much of this stuff they're going to collect, and so it'll be kind of interesting to see.
Yep, I'm looking forward to it. Once the Kickstarter comes out, I'll have to back it also.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's do the ecology. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, I'll just skip my stuff to next week. It's fine.
Yeah.
Come on, Waples. Waiting on your ecology.
Shit, I was muted now. All right.
Ah,
So, do you guys know what a Groot slang is?
Groot slang? I mean, isn't that what Groot talks?
No. If you could, real quick, tell me what you think a Groot slang is. Just describe the monster. 5 words, 6 words.
Groot slang.
Yeah.
My description would have been wrong.
Yeah.
I would have said some
Isn't it
sort
like
of a
a-
lizard creature.
Yeah, I thought it was like a big snake, like a
Yeah.
snake monster.
So there is a snake that's something slang, a book slang or something like that.
No, the Groot slang. That's actually a snake in South Africa.
So the Groot slang is a legendary cryptid that is reputed to dwell in a deep cave in Richtersveld, South Africa. According to legend, the Groot slang is a primordial creature as old as the world itself. Tales state that gods, new to the crafting of things, made a terrible mistake in the Groot slang's creation and gave it tremendous strength, cunning, and intellect. Realizing their mistake, the gods split the Groot slang into separate creatures and thus created the first elephants and the first snakes. But one of the original Groot slangs escaped, and from this first sire, all the other Groot slangs were born. It is claimed to devour elephants by luring them into its caves. Essentially, the Groot slang is a massive snake with the head of an elephant.
Yep, that's what the picture looks like, and it's horrifying.
The cave is known as the Wonder Hole, or the Bottomless Pit. Supposedly, it connects to the sea, which is 40 miles away. According to local legend, the cave is filled with diamonds. It is also said to live in warm rivers and lakes. And Benin, it is said to be a huge elephant-like creature with a serpent's tail. Sometimes it is depicted as a snake with orange gems for eyes, but according to the tale, Groot slangs covet gems, particularly diamonds, and despite this creature's lust for cruelty, victims can often bargain for their freedom by offering a Groot slang enough precious gems. While searching for treasures in Richtersveld, South Africa in 1917, English businessman Peter Grayson disappeared after members of his party were attacked and injured by lions, prompting legends that the Groot slang had killed him. But it had also been featured in a TV show known as Secret Sundays, or Secret Saturdays. And there's a couple depictions of it. There's one that's the giant elephant head on a giant snake body. And then there's one that's basically this giant elephant with these massive amount of horns and a giant snake tail. But in either case, this snake elephant hybrid thing just seems pretty fucking awesome. Especially when you give it orange gems for eyes and then have it like try to steal everyone's gems and diamonds in the city. I think it's pretty cool.
So since it has an elephant head, does it get to use guns?
Hell yeah.
Now we're spell jamming.
No,
Uh,
that'd be a cool monster to add to things.
I thought it was a cute little monster just to have lying around and wait, in case
Cute little horrifying legendary monster. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like you the party's like, oh, it's stealing all your gold and gems. It's just a dragon.
And
No.
there, of course, and like all things, there is a 5e stats for it.
Is there? I couldn't find 5e stats, but I found 3.5 stats for it.
No, I just went Groot slang 5e. It is like the second link D&D wiki. I mean, it's not official, obviously, but
Oh no, I was talking official. Yeah, I think I found official, at least a D20 system, Groot slang stats, but I couldn't find any official stats.
Yeah, official. Man, a lot of the stuff we come up with on here is iffy on official. I mean, even some of the Dragon magazines Kristian has read, I wouldn't really call those official.
Yeah, beholders lay
an
eggs.
official product.
Yeah.
Blink Mastodon.
Yep. The blink
Beware the
mastodon.
blink mastodon.
I love it.
So that's all I had for another Christopher-filled episode.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I'll like I said, I had a couple of things to talk about, but we could just save it. It wasn't anything too important. So before we check out, hey, did you guys know that combat juggling is actually a thing?
Yes.
Really? Because
Yes.
I just fucking found out about combat juggling. Where you
Well, I mean, like, yo-yo is like an actual weapon. So,
you ever tried killing somebody with a yo-yo?
I mean, that's how it became the yo-yo. Like, it was made to kill people.
Well, that's our ecology for next week. It'll be a weapon
Mm.
ecology.
Okay.
The
Excited.
killer yo-yo.
Yo-yo as a weapon. Well, I'll be damned.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that somebody's gonna get garroted with. I don't know. I haven't even looked anything up about it, but I feel like that's something that somebody very creative and very deadly with such things could do.
YouTube video, yo-yo with blades.
What?
That's how you lose a fucking finger.
Yeah, I figure it's just a really bored, like, medieval peasant, like, oh, yo-yo, yeah. Oh, I can use this to kill
Oh,
people.
whatever. Okay. So just even a brief Google search here. Marketing myth. The idea that a yo-yo is a weapon, especially in the Philippines, is a marketing tactic employed by Dunkin' yo-yo salespeople to make the toy appear more cool and to boost sales.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah. People who use the yo-yo as a switchblade. Yeah, of course they would.
Hey, I believe it, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, even the yo-yo museum sort of shits on that one, but
Yeah.
it is very old though. Like the yo-yo.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at a Greek vase that has a kid playing with a yo-yo on it from 440 BC.
Yeah.
So the Spartans created the yo-yo as a deadly weapon against the Persians?
No, it originated in China.
Yes, and tell us all about that next week on Dragon Ball Z. Okay.
Yep. All right. We're out of here. Bye, Craig.
Bye, Craig.